This is Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. So, okay, it's a little hard to kind of gauge the series as I've played it, because I've mostly just been playing the remakes up until this point, the two DS games and the one 3DS game, but we're going back to the SNES for the fourth game in the series. This is the second SNES Fire Emblem game, but I'm gonna be honest, Genealogy and its sequel, Thracia 776, are kind of the definition of Fire Emblem on the SNES.
Which is a weird thing to say, considering Thracia didn't come out till the year 2000.
That is the weirdest thing. So as a note, this game has had a bit of a history with its translations, but in general, Fire Emblem has had some better fan translations over the years. A lot of the early attempts were valiant, but maybe not the best. This is the Project Naga fan translation. There is apparently a slightly more recent one that was done in 2025, Little Nordian, which is more or less the same as this one. It's just, it updates a lot of the terms and names to what Nintendo now uses for its official references, which are usually in Fire Emblem Heroes. Genealogy and Thracia might be some of the least remakeable Fire Emblems Nintendo has on their hands, despite how many people ask for them.
They also might have the hardest to translate names.
Yeah, granted, that is something Heroes is good at, because they also do a lot of Norse mythology names. That's also kind of the region we have here. Genealogy and Thracia have the Yggdrasil region, and yeah, there's just a lot of, I think, Norse-centered names. I think there's also like a bit of Irish there as well.
Yes, one of the names I'm thinking of in particular is Irish.
Yeah. So that was the attract mode of this game, but this is the proper intro that you're probably going to see. I think a lot of people probably miss the attract modes, but like, I touched on this in Final Fantasy V, but you really don't need modern graphics to actually know how to do cinematography. This game actually has like a proper intro. Like, we saw little snippets of gameplay and some scenes that we might be seeing later on, but also might just be original to this, and there are things happening in the background or in the past or whatever have you. Honestly, it's really well done. The presentation for this is fantastic.
That attract mode made me realize, I guess I just never turned animations off. I've never seen the, on-map combat animations, and that they were actual animations, not just the sprites moving left and right.
Yeah, I have the same thing, in that I don't like turning off the animations on my own, and I do all of these post-commentary, so, I don't need to turn the animations off, I just speed up the footage.
I think if I have to redo a map, I typically turn animations off, so that I'm not spending even more time on the same fight over and over again.
Alright, so I do also like the intro as well, but we're going to be getting even more backstory. We kind of got the more prosy version before, but here's just the straight timeline of Yggdrasil. It goes by very fast, but if you want to know, the gist of it is, here's the Lopter Empire, they suck, they kill so many people. We had to have a whole holy war to stop the Lopter Empire, because they just kept sacrificing people. So, a lot of this game is based on the 12 Crusaders, As we'll be seeing now, of course, this is an early Fire Emblem game, so we gotta have just the overall intro, which I've been better at absorbing over the last few years. I remember when I was first playing Fire Emblem, these intros always kind of went in one ear, out the other. And maybe it's because I know this game by now, but I can absorb this better.
Yeah, I'm never a fan of just like, hear all the nations, hear all the important people just told to you one after the other. It's easier for me to retain it if I get to see them in context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it in theory. In practice, it is just a lot of nouns, yeah. But anyway, this is the guy who sucks.
As you can tell by his design.
Here's another guy who sucks.
Same.
Now here's a handsome lad. He doesn't have time for any of this, though. But yeah, this is a bunch of names we're not going to see for a little bit yet. I think if anything, you'll probably want to remember Kurth the most. He's the central power here. Everybody else you can kind of put on the back burner. Even the guy who is the dad of our main character. We don't need to remember him just yet. But yeah, Isaac has attacked Granvale. So there's a big war. That's not really what we're going to be focusing on just yet, though. Yeah, Kurth is leading the charge. Oh, 6 houses? Geez, that's double the houses I'm used to anymore. Back in the olden days, you got 6 whole houses. But yeah, Byron's important, but he's fighting the main war. And this happens relatively frequently in Fire Emblem, but we're not exactly fighting in the main war just yet. So yeah, here's the problem we have to deal with. Verdane has decided to attack Granvale in the confusion.
I always liked this guy was named Gandalf. The movies hadn't come out yet, so you had to actually give a shit about Lord of the Rings to recognize that name.
Alright, so here's us, that's Sigurd. Right, so here's the situation. We don't have a lot of soldiers. Everybody's off fighting Isaac. The year's 757. If that number sounds close to any other numbers you might have heard, don't worry about it. Oh, countless calamities, you say? We'll worry about that later. This is the prologue, Birth of a Crusader.
I hate intros that do that. You don't have to tell me bad shit's gonna happen. Imply it through the actions I get to see on screen. I love how many enemies are on the Super Nintendo games.
Oh yeah. Every one of you did the best you could. We're not seeing anybody else who tried, they're all dead. Every last one of us. I feel like with a lot of Fire Emblem games you do have to just assume that, like, each unit's kind of leading its own group of people. That's why I like the 3 Houses battalions. We actually get people behind us. Alright, so we've got Sigurd, we've got one of his knights. And I'm gonna be honest, Noish is concerned. Sigurd is infamous for the fact that actually he probably could just go out and do all this on his own.
I was about to say that. Surely you shouldn't go. You aren't going to go alone. Noish, he could solo the first half of this game.
I was born a knight, I'll probably die a knight. You know how it goes. Just think about it, if you got RNG screwed, how would we look? Terrible. So yeah, we've got our 2 cavaliers at the start, of course, Noish and Alec.
These are important red and green cavaliers because this is what makes it a trend.
Yeah, Cain and Abel were relatively significant, but Gaiden did not really continue their tradition exactly.
They kind of retconned it in Echoes because of the colors they gave,
Lucas and Python. Or, not Python,
Forsyth. Between the 2 of us, we had them remembered. But yeah, the colors they gave to your soldier classes were red and green to kind of invoke the same thing.
Also, I argue that technically you're playing as the tactician in early Fire Emblem games, because the first one had Malladus, and, well, Gaiden didn't actually have that, but in this game we have Oife. He's here to do our tactics despite being a child. I guess Jigen was the tactician of Old Mystery of the Emblem. Also 14 and not battle ready? This is early Fire Emblem. Weirdly enough, we've had more child soldiers as the years have gone on.
I'm already 14. Please ignore the fact that I look like an 8-year-old.
Do not fight Oife, you will die. So yeah, just assume that anytime you see Sigurd in this game, there is a small child on the back of his horse. You don't actually get to see that, but you can assume it. Okay, so this game is about to give you a very bad bit of advice. Leaving the castle unattended is technically risky. It's not actually going to be a hazard for a vast majority of this game. But Alec is about to attempt to screw over one of the characters, Arden.
Oh, come on, Alec. First they don't pay for me to have Scalera in my portrait, now you're making me stay at the castle?
Come on! Let me actually fight with you guys! Anytime I try, you just say, "It's Horse Emblem time, baby," and then leave. You're mean.
I love the idea of Sigurd and his knights just being fucking frat bro douchebags to Arden. Anytime Arden walks out, they're just like riding around in a circle going, "Horse, horse, horse, horse!"
Quit it!
Okay, so Sigurd's phase. First off, of course, it's options time. Everybody's favorite time, but it's necessary because we need the text to be fast. Everything else is more or less as it needs to be.
I actually have a mono set up. Can you change the audio settings?
Oh yeah, hold on a sec, let me just re-record this entire thing real quick. Also, autosave is a thing in this game. Highly recommended. If the game is going to give you the ability to autosave, you might as well take it. Alright, so, let's take a look at our characters. Right, so, we'll be going over characters in detail over the course of this chapter, but here's what the stats screen looks like. Here's your skill. So, a lot of this game is going to look familiar to anybody who's played a modern Fire Emblem, but also kind of weird at the same time. For example, follow-up is a skill in this game. Not everybody can follow up just for having more speed than an enemy. You do need a skill for it.
That is probably the most infuriating thing about this game to me. I know there are things that are technically more infuriating.
Yeah, like there's also criticals, that's also a skill. But there's also other ways to crit other than just the crit skill. But one of the things you're definitely going to want to make note of is the Holy Blood screen that I keep looking at. What is important is that when you look at Sigurd's screen, it has a little dot on it signifying what Holy Blood he has. What you're going to notice about the rest of the characters we're looking at is that they don't have Holy Blood, and that is so important. We also have Arden here, who not only does not have Holy Blood, he also does not have a horse, which, if there's one thing this game is infamous for, it's the fact that horses are critical. If you do not have a horse in Genealogy of the Holy War, people will look at you funny, and will think you lesser. So, the reason that they suggest leaving Arden in the castle is, if an enemy reaches the castle, they will take it over. If they reach your home base in a chapter, that's an automatic game over. So technically speaking, you do want your home castle safe, but like I said, that's not relevant for most of the game. If an enemy reaches your home castle at this point in the game, I genuinely don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Two things I've never seen in Genealogy. One is a game over from losing your castle, the other is a game over from losing Sigurd.
Yeah, of course, main character rules are in effect here, so if Sigurd dies, you lose automatically. If anybody else is killed, they're dead forever, or at least until you reload your save. And speaking of dead forever, this Midir guy here does look like he's got a portrait, but, don't like his odds. Oh, geez, and he even got a crit? Man, he just did not have a chance. Also, yeah, you heard a from him. Enemies don't really have this, but anybody important on, you know, your side in general does have a death scream. So, not only do you get, you know, unique dialogue for each character if they're killed, they also just shout, too. They've got a voice clip for it.
I fucking forgot that one of these goon types was named DiMaggio.
Yeah, so just assume he sounds like Bender.
He's just doing all the voices that voice actor can do.
Also, yeah, once again, you don't need fancy modern graphics to do cinematography or, you know, anything like that. There's very clear action there. He had a hard time dragging her along at first. Sprite work, it's cool. Which I feel is kind of self-evident at this point because I will say, again, I've mostly been LPing the remakes, but Mystery of the Emblem did look pretty good. I think this game and Thracia look better, but Mystery of the Emblem did have a pretty nice color palette, and definitely those were a step up from the NES games. But yeah, the map alone in this game is just really good looking. Okay, so yeah, turn 1, we couldn't exactly save Arden. Oh, they're going for Chalfie. They're not going to make it, though. I can guarantee that. Alright, so, like we said before, Sigurd could just solo this map if he really needed to, but we'll have everybody else ride forth. For the time being, though, right, so. In terms of characters we have so far, Sigurd is incredible. So he's already got a horse, he's got some pretty powerful weapons with a steel sword and an iron lance, so that's pretty solid already. He has follow-up, we've got friends coming in that I'll have to describe to you, but in terms of growth rate, HP is 110%, Strength is 50, Magic's 5, but who cares about that? Skills 50, Speed's 30, Luck's 40, Defense is 40, and Resistance is 5. That's just amazing across the board.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's our lead character, but we do have friends coming in. This is kind of a weird mixed bag. Both of these characters are from different regions, but they seem to have friends. Lex and Azel both want to help. One of them has a crush on Arden. Will that matter? Who knows? I haven't even stood next to her at any point. Stop making fun of me.
I know this is a fan translation, but I do kind of miss when translations were allowed to play around with dialogue like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that makes the dialogue feel more natural, even if it's not a strict one-to-one translation of what the Japanese text was. It's probably more accurate than what some other people would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very fun dialogue, I will give them that. But, yeah, one thing about Sigurd, though, is, as I mentioned, he has something called Holy Blood. He has Baldur Holy Blood. So, part of what Holy Blood does is it does actually give growth rate bonuses, so Sigurd, from that blood, got an extra 20% HP growth, 10% strength, 10 skill, and 10 luck. So, part of the reason he's so good is his amazing Holy Blood. So let's take a look at his Cavaliers then. Noish has 80% HP growth rate, 40% strength, 5 magic, 30% skill, 20% speed, 20% luck, 40% defense, and 5% resistance. Honestly, he's not terrible. He also has the critical skill, which lets him do crits, and a cost, which is sort of like follow-up, except different. A cost is basically, if you have enough HP, you might actually start another fight. So that's not just, you do another attack, you go an entire another round of it. Which is potentially kinda dangerous. Also, I looked on the wiki, and apparently it engages the enemy in 2 to 20 rounds of combat, which I don't think is ever going to happen to you, but the fact that it's coded that way is hilarious. But yeah, then you also have Alec, who's got 70% HP growth, 30% strength, 5 magic, 40 speed, 30% speed, 40% skill, 30% speed, 30% luck, 30% defense, and 5% resistance. He's also got the follow-up skill, so he can't make multiple attacks, but like, in a normal way. And Nihil. The main thing it does is it prevents crits. However, it does also prevent the activation of other skills, none of which are relevant right now, but basically anything that activates with like an extra effect, similar to crit, yeah, prevents those.
Your red and green cavaliers in this game are kind of infamous for not being as strong as they normally are.
Yeah, again, the growth rates don't seem terrible on their own, but they might happen to drop off a little bit. I may or may not know that from experience, and most people who've played that may or may not know that from experience. And speaking of dropping off, Arden. So Arden is an armor knight. He has access to swords. He's specifically a sword armor. He's got 90% HP growth rate, 50% strength, 5 magic, 10 skill, 20 speed, 10 luck, 40 defense, and 5 resistance. And again, does not have a horse. He does have the skill Vantage. Vantage is typically a Myrmidon thing, but in this case the knight has it. Basically, if you're at half HP or less, you will move before the enemy if they initiate combat. And wouldn't you know it, here comes another cavalry. I love how innocuous the beginning of the game is. Like, we're just charging in to solve a kidnapping, and now we just have all the other territories who haven't gone off to war going, oh, we gotta help him. We like Sigurd. Also, this woman is Sigurd's sister. It's a little hard to tell on account of the different hair color, but I'm assuming she got it from her mother. It's kind of hard to tell because we never get to see the mother, and also Byron already has white hair, so for all we know, maybe he had the pink hair. He probably didn't, but he might. So yeah, while we look over those new characters, let's also go over our mage, Azel. 70% HP, 10% strength, 40% magic, 20 skill, 50 speed, 20 luck, 20 defense, 10 resistance, and he does have follow-up. And of course, he's a mage. So in early Fire Emblem especially, mages can be deadly because physical units don't usually have a lot of resistance, if any. Like, that's always true throughout the series, but early games just hated giving non-mage units resistance, so yeah, they're kind of a menace. Lex, meanwhile, is a mounted unit, but he's also the rare unit that has axes as well. As for his growth rates, they are 90% HP, 40 strength, 5 magic, 20 skill, 20 speed, 20 luck, 50 defense, and 5 resistance. So, a little even across the board, but pretty good defense. Both of them also have minor holy blood. Lex has Nair blood, and Azel has Fala blood. So Nair is the reason that Lex has such high defense because it gives 20% to HP and 30% to defense. Meanwhile, Vala gives 20% to HP and 30% to magic, so, you know, good for mages. You'll probably notice that they are also very good units and will stay very good units. So next on the list is Quan, the Prince of Leonster and one of Sigurd's closest friends. So in terms of his growth rates, he's got 110 HP, 50 strength, 5 magic, 30 skill, 40 speed, 10 luck, 50 defense, and 5 resistance. He also has Major Nova Blood, so of those growth rates, it contributes 20% HP, 10% strength, 10% speed, and 10% defense, so pretty good stats to have across the board. Quan also has the Adept skill, which is another type of follow-up skill, except instead of waiting for the enemy, this one just means if you're fast enough, you just do your turns consecutively, so, you know, pretty solid if it does activate. And then after that, we have Sigurd's sister, Ethlyn. So she's a troubadour, which means she can actually heal and use swords. She is probably not your best fighter, but she can defend herself in a pinch. She's got 60% HP, 30% strength, 5 magic, 30 skill, 30 speed, 20 luck, 20% defense, and 10% resistance, so potentially she's slightly better at not dying to magic. She also has Boulder Blood, but she has minor Boulder Blood. We'll get into the details later because this game's got a lot of complex systems and there's so much up front. So Ethelyn actually has the critical skill, which means she can crit on her own. I think we see it in this episode, but she also has another way to crit, as does Quan, despite the fact that Quan does not have a crit skill himself. But of course, we also have to mention our last character of the episode, Finn. So Finn, of course, is Quan's vassal. He does not have Holy Blood because he is merely a knight, but he is a lance knight and he is pretty solid. 70% HP, 30% strength, 5 magic, 40% skill, 30% speed, 50% luck, 30% defense, and 5% resistance. And while he does have the follow-up skill, he also has the miracle skill, which is usually just reserved for healers, but he has it here. Basically, as long as you're not at 1 HP, there is a chance that he will not be killed by an otherwise fatal attack. So honestly, he is decent. He can potentially survive if he gets swarmed. He is also not our ideal character for this point in the game. Now that we're done going over characters, I should also mention, you're probably familiar with the weapon triangle of the Fire Emblem series because it is one of the more prominent features of it. Again, this is difficult to gauge because I've been playing the remakes, but this is actually the first game in the series with the weapon triangle. Original Shadow Dragon, Gaiden, Mystery of the Emblem did not have that feature. It had different weapons and they had different attributes, but they didn't necessarily have an advantage against one another. But this is the first game in the series where that is the case. And I bring that up now because we're fighting almost exclusively axe enemies, so our sword characters are going to really have the advantage here. Axe characters are neutral, so Lex is having an okay time. Azel doesn't care about that weapon triangle, he just hits people with fire. Quan and Finn are gonna have a little bit of trouble. And speaking of trouble, Ethelyn is just getting teased relentlessly by Sigurd. To most people, Sigurd is a very straightforward, honest person, but as a sibling, he does seem to be a gremlin. It's fine though, because he does care. He's just clearly not the responsible one of the family. Alright, so yeah, in terms of strategy, this is a pretty simple chapter, so I'm mostly just setting up my sword units to take down the bottom section here. The Cavaliers are kind of hanging out above to take care of things in the middle section, and Lex and Azel can easily take out the stuff to the north. Don't you recall our old pledge? Don't you remember college? We were students, we were kinda wild. You, me, and some person we've not met yet named Eldigan.
I think that's his name at the moment. I don't know, it might change next week.
Yeah, you know, talking late about our hopes and dreams, in a very straight way.
Remember we used to go riding around the dorms where they kept all the armor swords, and we would just ride our horses around yelling, "Horse, horse, horse, horse!"
We've never stopped doing that. Sigurd, maybe you shouldn't be acting like that anymore. Stop teasing poor Arden. He tries his best. Alright, so we've got that village saved right there, so we don't have to worry about this guy attacking the village. And even if for some reason he was going to go to Chalfie instead of trying to attack Neuscher Alec, frankly, we could catch up to him in no time. Again, on account of the horses. We're bullying him right now, we're just boxing him in.
They're literally doing it. They're riding around and yelling, horse, 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 horse. I do wonder how much of the perception of Alec and Neusch being underwhelming as Red and Green Cavaliers comes from the fact that Sigurd is just broken.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Like, you can just send Sigurd... You could have just sent Sigurd by himself to handle the bottom half of this map. Meanwhile, these two are taking multiple turns to kill one guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, we also have Lex who's doing a pretty good job. He does need a mage to help, but frankly, he's also pretty good. Also, I don't think I mentioned his skills either. He's also got Vantage, but if he's leveling up pretty quickly, that's also because he has the skill Paragon, which just doubles his experience.
Yeah. This game is so weird, because they hand you a bunch of units that are, like, range from, like, broken to slightly overpowered, and then you just have characters that don't have anything wrong with them, but they have nothing going for them.
They have nothing wrong with them. They'd be perfectly serviceable in any other game, but this is the game with Sigurd in it.
Sigurd and Lex and Quan and Finn.
Yeah, even Finn. And Finn doesn't have Holy Blood. So, not having Holy Blood doesn't always damn you, but it's definitely, not ideal. Although, Quan and Finn definitely have their advantage here, because we've got some archers, which of course are dedicated ranged units, but since they're not part of the weapons triangle, that just means we can kill them. We just hit them with our own ranged lances. That wasn't a terrible level up either.
It doesn't have a skill name in this game, but the ability of horse units to attack and then move also makes them a lot more valuable.
Kanto.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think it's called Kanto in this game. I think it's just a thing horse units can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll later be known as Kanto, but it is pretty much at its peak in this game. Honestly, in general, I like what these SNES games do with their mounted units. I miss Kanto in later games.
Arden looks like he walked out of Balls 3D. Anyways, go on.
It took them a while for them to really get their groove for designing the Armor Knights, huh? But yeah, like, okay, we're not playing Thracia, but there is a thing that I want to like about that game in regards to, I'll explain that in a sec. There's a thing that I want to like about mounted units in that game that I simply cannot, for reasons, but it's a thing that I am kind of glad appears later on in the series, and I know I'm being very vague, but, you know, we'll get to it eventually. But back there, we actually had an invocation of the Lover's Crypts. So, of course, I mentioned their general positions in relation to Sigurd, but Quan and Ethlin are actually married. If you check the screens, of course, it says that their lover is, the other respective character. So, one part of that is the fact that there is a chance whenever you're fighting next to your lover character that you will just perform a critical hit. Anytime you see that little heart animation, yeah, you will get a crit in the oncoming fight provided you hit. Although, If I recall correctly, if you have a round where you just whiff both shots, I don't think it ever plays the animation before that. I think if you see the animation, you are guaranteed to see a crit. But yeah, sometimes it just won't proc, or you'll just miss. Also, there's just a regular crit. Okay, yeah, I said Ethlyn isn't the best in a fight, and you can see her regular damage that that's true. But also, man, she's also not completely helpless in a fight either.
She has a horse. That's a determination if you're a good unit or not in this game.
Oh yeah. You've also probably surely noticed by now, but despite being the first map in the game, this map is huge. And also, I've mostly been sticking to one part of it, but like, we did see in the intro, people just casually walk over to a castle even further beyond this one. But yeah, maps are huge, so in addition to the Kanto ability, which lets you reposition with your remaining movement after a fight, just the ability to cross this map quickly is just good. It's just objectively good. I don't agree with bullying Arden, but Alec wasn't wrong when he called him slow. His growth rate for speed, terrible. But also, his movement, terrible. Ooh, speaking of bad growths, I mean, Lex is getting him quickly, and I guess they can't all be winners. Oh, if you just had a fancy sword, they'd be so screwed. So yeah, that's actually another mechanic, on top of just the stats you get, the growth rates, rather. Of course, we don't have access to them because that would be ludicrous, but there are special weapons in this game that are tied to the holy blood that each character gets, so... you can actually see on the chart, though, it does display the weapon, or really, any item. Some of them are staves, or books, but yeah, whatever holy item corresponds to the holy blood, the game does actually show you what that is, so you get a little bit of a sneak peek to what you're going to be getting later on, which is pretty cool. And we have a villager just straight up say, eventually you'll have a sword called Tyrfing. And that would be cool, but Lord Byron has it, so we're gonna have to borrow a sword from Dad. Just can't do it yet because he's off to war. Also, I'm not gonna talk about the villages too much just yet, but that's another thing you might have noticed, is that every turn we have, somebody is just burning villages down. This is a source of anxiety for me for a vast majority of this game. Again, I mostly want to go over characters this time. We'll talk about villages next time. But, villages. The nice thing is, though, like, in most Fire Emblem games, villages are one and done, so if a brigand or whatever unit gets to a village, it's just destroyed. It's good that's not the case here, because this game is designed with the fact that you can't immediately get to villages in mind. If that wasn't obvious.
It is very stressful, though.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, given the way this game is designed, they kinda had to do that, because as it stands, we're already kind of ripping Verdane to pieces, but if we could just turtle this chapter, there would be nothing. There would be no challenge. Because we also have those churches there, so even if Ethlyn's not around to heal, it does cost money, but if you stand on a church, they will heal your HP.
Oh, look out, guys, Arden's here.
To be fair, Arden's not like a terrible unit.
I know.
It's just he's not that good.
I feel like I forget the specifics of it, but I feel like even discounting like his poor movement, Arden has other things holding him back. Like he's actually really close to being a very good unit. He's just held back by both the game design and just one or two things about his character.
Mm-hmm. We're also getting a bit of a backstory here about the various family that Lady Adine has. Or the one person, because apparently her sister vanished mysteriously at sea. So, as we all know, when you die at sea, you die in real life, so yeah, that's just a tragedy we know about.
Man, we gotta stop playing Super Nintendo games where there is a princess who has a sister who's lost at sea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as we know, that worked out horribly for Lena, and her life was just tragic.
You see the way she acts in that game. That's not the behavior of a mentally well person.
You know, when you're right, you're right. Okay, so this is another thing about villages. We've been getting money. Sometimes they also give you items, though, which is why I want Finn to come here, because he does kind of need that speed ring. So the cool thing about the rings in this game is, typically they are one-use items that permanently increase your stats. In this game, when they're in your inventory, which, might I also point out, is larger than your typical Fire Emblem inventory, it's actually just a passive ability. You don't use the item, you just have the speed ring on Finn now. You can potentially give that to another character, but trading in this game does not work like it does in any other Fire Emblem game. Again, we'll get to that later. For now, just know that Finn's wearing that ring, and he does not want to give it up.
Another thing that is preventing this game from being remade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this game has a lot of little things. I do really like, I guess, the unique SNES games overall. But I feel they do kind of have the case of, just a few too many ingredients in the pot, you know? Just a few too many things that go from, this is a game that I actively enjoy to, I enjoyed my time with this, I don't want to play it again.
Damn.
This is a little bit stressful to play. Although, I will say, if you are having trouble getting into this game, there's a very good fan site, Fire Emblem Wars of Dragons, or Fire Emblem WOD, that has just a really good chapter-by-chapter guide that, you know, gives you a general strategy for each chapter, but mostly just gives you, like, the overview of where items are, and, you know, who you need to take where, at what time, if it matters. And that does genuinely kind of take a lot of the stress out of playing this game.
Granvale's overworld sprite just makes him look scared. He's just clutching his axe, shaking.
Mm-hmm. In fairness, DiMaggio, just has a steel axe, which is very powerful, as we can see here. But if you want to, you can just hit him with a mage over and over again. He will heal from being on a castle, but like, Azel can just pelt him with magic and there's nothing he can do. Skill luck is pretty good. Alright, so let's get Finn out of the way. And also heal him because he has a huge bloody gash in his side. Again, steel axe, very strong. Just can't be thrown from a distance, so it has its weaknesses. But with that, we are not actually done with the chapter. That's right, we're going to enter this castle with Sigurd to proceed. But we're not done yet. Also, there's a young knight collapsed over there. It's Midir. He did actually survive.
Sigurd, I think I lost the cutscene battle.
It's fine, as long as you have a name and a face, you can survive those.
Until you can't.
Yeah, as long as it's a tutorial for the concept of death, you can survive it, unless you're a generic. So yeah, we have retaken Youngby. But again, that's not the end of the chapter. We'll see how everything proceeds next time. We'll also talk more about Midir next time. I'll show his stats here, but yeah, we're otherwise done, so tune in next time for the end of the prologue. Which again, I can't state enough. This isn't it. We took a castle and it's not over yet.